Hello world! I want to experiment with a more consistent weekly hacking news update that covers 4 or 5 topics as opposed to just 3 topic videos every so often. So first up in this week's hacking news update, a critical vulnerability in Signal allows hackers to take over your phone just by sending you a malicious link, allegedly. Rumours that this exploit is being used in the wild started to go viral last weekend, with the source of the news apparently being an anonymous US government insider. The exploit was said to abuse Generate Link Previews, a feature in Signal which, like most messaging apps, gives you a sneak peek of a link before you click it. However, the root cause of the bug is reportedly related to that recent WebP image vulnerability. So the idea being, you receive a link which causes a preview to load within Signal, which has a specially crafted image containing malicious code, which results in your device being hacked, and all your secrets ending up in the hands of some guy in a dark room wearing a hoodie. But the WebP vulnerability was patched weeks ago, so that just can't be behind this, which only added to the uncertainty of not knowing what the hell was behind all of these claims, causing the panic to go viral and actually register on Google Trends. And fair enough, I mean, Signal isn't just used by privacy enthusiasts, but also a hell of a lot of journalists and activists, people who would likely end up being the target of whatever government had access to such an exploit. But the Signal team quickly descended on this, investigated, and crushed the rumours, saying that they've seen no evidence that suggests this vulnerability is even real. They also checked with people across the US government, since that was apparently the source of the news, but those guys were just as clueless as everyone else. Who started the rumour and why is a bit of a mystery. But regardless of this Signal hack turning out to be total BS, Signal remains an incredibly lucrative target for black hats. I mean, the Russian exploit broker OpZero is currently offering $1.5 million to anyone who can find a remote code execution vulnerability in the app. And OpZero is quite open about the fact that they then sell these exploits on to Russian companies and government organizations. Spyware disguised as a Rocket Alert app has been targeting Israel. These Rocket Alert apps are used by millions of Israelis to provide advanced warnings of Hamas rocket fire into civilian areas. And it's no surprise that in the past week or so, the popularity of these apps has, well, skyrocketed, presenting an opportunity for cyber bad guys to create their own Rocket Alert apps with hidden, undocumented features. Researchers at Cloudflare discovered a website, redalerts.me, claiming to offer one such app. Whilst the website is fairly convincing, if you go to download the Android version, instead of taking you to the Play Store, you're instead served a malicious APK, which lights up VirusTotal like a Christmas tree. The app's permissions allow it to view your call log and SMSs, as well as see your contacts and Google account, and even access things like your device's IMEI number. But this isn't a list of things which cybercriminals generally go for. Those guys are more interested in your credit card details and passwords, suggesting that whoever's behind this app has other motives. As long as the app is installed, it'll continually grab your phone's data, encrypt it, and upload it to an attacker-controlled IP address. And the victim would have no idea, because the app functions like an actual Rocket Alert app, providing genuine rocket alerts just as the victim would expect. The spyware element of the app is only an extra feature, which is all made possible because the app is actually just a clone of a genuine Rocket Alert app that millions of Israelis use on a daily basis. And this app just so happens to be open source, making it straightforward for a bad guy to clone and add a sneaky surprise. But the bad guy in this case is unknown. No hacktivist group has taken responsibility, and there's no suggestion from researchers as to who could be behind it. But it's not the first time in recent days that Rocket Alert apps have been abused. We saw in a recent video that self-proclaimed Palestinian hacktivists discovered a vulnerability in the API of a different Rocket Alert app, allowing them to send false alerts warning of incoming nuclear bombs. Cybercriminals claim to have taken control of the systems of Colonial Pipeline again. This pipeline supplies almost half of the fuel used by America's East Coast, and you might remember the first cyber attack on it back in 2021 had dramatic IRL consequences. To refresh your memory, after the pipeline's billing and accounting systems were locked up in a ransomware attack, Colonial just wasn't able to charge their customers, so they shut down the pipeline for 5 days, which resulted in fuel shortages at petrol pumps and some airlines even had to change their flight schedules. For a few days, there was chaos, making the hack one of the most consequential cyber attacks of all time. So in the last few days, when a new cybercriminal group posted to Telegram that they'd hacked the Colonial Pipeline, the response was far from enthusiastic, with many people expecting a replay of the events of 2021. However, the group behind this supposedly devastating new hack is Ransomed VC, and these guys have a history of exaggerating their hacks for clout. Just a couple weeks back, they claimed to have perpetrated a disastrous hack against Sony, which, spoiler alert, turned out to be kind of a nothing burger. I'll leave a link to that video below if you want a full rundown. So is this claim of a new Colonial Pipeline hack also just empty hype? Well, yeah, kinda. After Ransomed VC made the announcement, the pipeline company quickly rushed out a statement saying the claims were unsubstantiated, but Ransomed VC then posted a download link to all the stolen files, proving that they weren't completely lying. But they just stole some data here. They didn't encrypt anything or take control of the systems of the Colonial Pipeline like they claimed, so they quietly edited their Telegram post to reflect reality. And as for those stolen files, it doesn't look like these even came from the pipeline company at all, but rather a consultancy firm that just had some contracts with them. In the 3GB dump are the details of those contracts, emails between employees, and photos of them working. It doesn't look like there's any credentials in here or anything which could immediately threaten the operations of the pipeline like last time, but as always with these kinds of breaches, it could be a pretty good source of intel for other cybercriminals wanting to perpetrate further attacks in the future. Russian and Chinese state-backed hackers have been caught exploiting WinRAR to do international cyber espionage. But before we get to that, I need to tell you about today's sponsor. Akamai Connected Cloud is your Swiss Army knife for cloud computing. These guys can handle everything cloud, and they're giving you a $100 60-day credit just to get started. One of their features that I love is their app marketplace, which makes it super easy to spin up servers with pre-configured software. Need an instance of Kali? Just configure the basics with their installer and you're done. So click the link in the description now to claim your free $100 credit. But back to those pesky state-sponsored hackers. They're using a vulnerability in WinRAR that was actually patched a couple months back, but thanks to WinRAR not having an auto-update feature, meaning you actually have to head to the website and grab updates manually, a hell of a lot of people are still vulnerable to this. The vulnerability itself is incredibly easy to exploit. It's made possible thanks to a bug in WinRAR's capability to open files with a trailing space in their name. When you open one of these files, if there just so happens to be a folder of the same name in the archive, then WinRAR will open the first file in that folder if, and only if, the file's name matches the original file name before the space, and if it has an extension from a predefined list. Given this list of extensions involves executables, it's not hard to see how this could be misused. An attacker could easily create a scenario where opening a totally innocent JPEG would trigger a malicious script to run in the background. It's a very elegant exploit, which Google has just discovered multiple instances of government hackers exploiting. One case involves a hacker group linked to the Russian armed forces, Sandworm. These guys recently launched a phishing campaign which impersonates a Ukrainian drone warfare training school. They blasted out emails telling victims that they'd been invited to join the school and that they'd find their offer in a PDF within an attached zip file. But upon opening the booby-trapped PDF, a hidden batch script was run, which downloaded a nasty info stealer called Radamanthus and ran it in the background. This info stealer is apparently known as the Everything Bagel info stealer, thanks to the extensive list of software it can steal credentials from, which even includes incredibly obscure browsers you've probably never even heard of, like Chameleon or Pale Moon. In another case, Google observed a Chinese hacker group known as Island Dreams launching a phishing campaign targeting an organization in Papua New Guinea. In this case, the booby-trapped archive used a fake invoice as a lure. Opening the invoice triggers a PowerShell script hidden in an LNK file, which downloads a malicious DLL file, which is then sideloaded into legitimate Windows software, resulting in something Google is calling BoxRat being run on the victim PC. I couldn't find much information on BoxRat, but it seems to be some kind of a backdoor which allows Island Dreams persistent access to the victim's computer. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.